Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at my top 10 deluxe board games. Some of these are huge and mega and giant, and some of them are just nicer versions of the original game. All of these are completely not necessary. Most of them are fairly expensive to obtain, and I don't make this list for you to go hunt them all down. We have most of these in the Dice Tower library, but if I was collecting games on a personal level, many of these I would not have just because of the size of many of them. So let's take a look at in my opinion, the best as of this moment. Number 10 is Container 10th Anniversary Edition. I'm actually not even a huge fan of Container, but Mercury Games took Container and made giant plastic ships to the point where I thought it was super ironic that Eurogamers, who usually make fun of Ameritrash gamers for all their little plastic models, have these big, huge plastic ships, but this was a big giant edition of Container. Looks beautiful, moving these ships around, dropping off the little all these storage units and goods. So if you want big and grandiose in your Euro game, Container 10th Anniversary Edition. Number 9 is from Matago, and that's River Dragons. River Dragons is a game about crossing this pond with planks, and it's a really nice, pretty game. And then they made a big deluxe version, which comes in a giant wooden box, huge planks. It takes up a good chunk of table space as you lay out the nice cloth mat and move your people across the river. Very beautiful game. People will definitely stop and look. Number 8 is from Plan B Games, Flick 'em Up, the deluxe edition. Flick 'em Up is a great game where two teams go up against each other, basically playing cowboys versus outlaws and flicking, discs at each other. Well, they made a big version to use at conventions. People liked it. People wanted it. Now you can get it. And now you're flicking giant discs at each other. And the whole thing just has a huge, grandiose feel to it and big Wild West type outlook to it, to the point where I don't want to play the normal version because this big one is so cool. Number 7 is the Ticket to Ride 10th Anniversary Edition. The 15th Anniversary Edition is kind of, just another version. But the 10th Anniversary Edition is a much bigger version of the base game. The trains are all different looking trains. They're not just different colors. The board is big. The cards are big. It's just a nice version of the game. This is one of the few that, if you like Ticket to Ride, I would say, you might want to go hunt this one down because it's nice, but it's not astronomically priced as compared to many of the games on this list, but it is a very pretty version, and when I teach people Ticket to Ride, it's the one I want to bring out. Number 6 is the Anniversary Edition of Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico has a current version, which is okay, and it had the first edition, which was okay, but the Anniversary Edition of Puerto Rico is very, very pretty, with nice buildings and nice cars and nice shaped colonists, and everything just was like an upgraded look, little metal coins, which were fantastic. And again, this was one, unfortunately, this one was in print and out of print really quickly, and so now to hunt it down is unfortunately a fairly pricey affair, but it's a really cool, this is I think the smallest deluxe edition on this list, but it's one that I'm happy to have in the Dice Tower library. Number 5 is Ogre. This one is extremely ironic because the original Ogre was released in a plastic bag. So with some counters. Ogre, where you have a bunch of small tanks and things and people fighting against one big giant ogre. And it was a hex and counter type thing. And then Steve Jackson decided to make a Kickstarter deluxe version of this, and they went insane. Gigantic box. Tons of ogres in this. You'll probably never play with all of them. There's so many in there. You're only playing with one per game usually. So much content in this. Really cool looking. And that box, people trying to get this box and transport it around, just a real pain in the neck. I plan to be buried in an ogre box. That's how big. They're just huge. And it's neat to see. And a lot of people got it, but it doesn't get pulled out so often because it's so big. Number 4 is Takinoko. This is the second game from Matago on this list. Takinoko is a game that I never thought needed a deluxe big version. But once I saw it, I was like, that's pretty cool. It's a game about a panda, and you're moving the panda around and making bamboo trees, eating the bamboo, running away from a gardener. Huge panda, huge gardener, everything. The game was already exuding this cuteness factor. This just ups that, and it just, especially when the bamboo stalks are growing on the table, looks fascinating. A really cool game. Comes in basically a cube wooden box. That's Takinoko. All right, here we are at the big three now. Number 3, the Catan 3D Collector's version. This was one of the first, this might be the oldest game on this list. This game came out, Catan, obviously a very, very popular game, but this one came in a chest with 3D mountains and plains and painted pieces. The whole thing, it's a little fragile actually, but the whole thing just looks gorgeous on the table. And people went bananas for it because who did not want a beautiful 3D printed Catan? The problem is it was quite expensive and it's kind of heavy to carry around, but it looks gorgeous. Highly recommend it. Number 2 is War of the Ring. This is the only one on the list that's been released twice. There was a first edition, Deluxe War of the Ring, and then there's a second one. War of the Ring was already a big, grandiose game of hordes of miniatures, the whole Fellowship of the Ring, and it takes the War of the Ring books and puts that into a board game. And now you have the same thing, bigger, painted miniatures. The first edition came in a box that looked like a giant book that you would open and play. And for people who like War of the Ring, this extremely pricey game was the way to play it. It just, again, every detail, gorgeous, cool production. And then number 1, Small World. The deluxe edition of Small World. Now, Small World's a game, again, I didn't really think, I want a deluxe edition of Small World. But when Days of Wonder decided to do a online version of Small World, and they did a Kickstarter, they kind of threw this in as something else they were trying to do. And they went all out. The Small World, which comes in a big chest, heavy to carry around, comes with a ton of content from the game, 3D printed miniatures, big metal coins, wooden tiles, special boxes to hold everything in. The whole thing feels like a rich man's toy. And it is, considering the prices the game went for originally, and even more so now. But it's easily the number 1 I think of. Although I think a lot of people might disagree and put War of the Ring as number 1. I think I like the Small World one better myself, which is why it's top of my list. So those are my favorite deluxe games. What are yours? Tell me in the comments below. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.